Welcome to Mimi Stories 256. Please subscribe and like. Let's start our next chapter of The Price of Her Belonging. The car came to a stop, its headlights casting a soft glow on the girl who still stood by the roadside. Seeing her small frame illuminated against the darkness, the man stepped out, his heart tugged by the sight. As he approached, the girl's tiny voice reached him. "Oh, good sir, thank you for coming back to help us," she said, her voice polite and earnest. With a delicate hand placed on her chest, she bent slightly in a dramatic gesture of gratitude. The scene was so sincere that the man couldn't help but smile. What a disciplined child, and so fragile, he thought to himself. His voice softened with concern. "What are you doing out here all alone at this hour?" The girl, with hurried yet graceful strides, turned and ran back a few steps to where her mother lay hidden in the tall grass. Standing protectively by her side, she called out, "My mom is very sick. We need to go to the hospital. Please help us, good sir." The man's eyes followed her gesture, and his expression shifted to one of worry as he spotted the woman. She lay on her side, partially covered by the grass, her breaths shallow and irregular. "Wait here, give me a minute," he said firmly, his tone calm but urgent. He turned and quickly made his way back to the car, his mind racing with the image of the sick woman and the desperate girl. Inside, he relayed the details to his family. "There's a woman lying by the road. She's very sick, barely breathing. And her daughter is asking for help," he explained. His wife's expression softened instantly, her voice gentle but resolute. "Of course you can't ask whether we should help. We need to take them to the hospital." But the older woman, her tone sharp and unforgiving, interjected immediately. "Of course not. Why would we do that? Someone else will help them. Why does it have to be us?" The little girl in the back seat turned her head sharply to face her grandmother, her young face full of shock and disappointment. "Grandma," she cried out, her small voice trembling with emotion. The older woman's lips thinned, her sharp tone faltering as her granddaughter's gaze pierced her. She shifted uncomfortably, trying to regain control of the situation. "What I mean, darling," she said, softening her tone in a feigned explanation, "is that I'm already old and sickly as it is. Bringing someone who is ill could put my health at risk. I might get infected too." The man shook his head as he turned to his mother, his tone firm but respectful. "Don't worry about that, Mom. We'll put them in the second car." His words left no room for argument. Feeling her position slip away, the older woman let out a disgruntled hump and folded her arms across her chest. "Fine," she said reluctantly, her displeasure clear. "But don't expect me to be happy about it." The man gave her a steady look before stepping out again, his mind made up. Behind him, the little girl stared at her grandmother, her face still a portrait of disappointment. While the older woman avoided her gaze, pretending to look out the window, the man carefully lifted the frail woman into the second car, her shallow breaths audible in the still night air. The young girl climbed in beside her, clutching her mother's hand tightly, her small frame trembling with anxiety. The car sped the dimly occasional streetlight, casting fleeting shadows across their faces. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with silence, save for the faint hum of the engine. The older woman shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her arms crossed tightly as she stared out of the window. The young wife glanced nervously between her mother-in-law and her husband, sensing the tension but unsure of how to ease it. "That girl!" The older woman finally broke the silence, her voice sharp. "Did you notice how ragged her clothes were? She looked like she hadn't eaten in days." The man tightened his grip on the steering wheel but didn't turn his head. "That's exactly why we're helping them, Mom." The older woman scoffed lightly. "Helping them? And what difference will it make? People like that, they have no one to blame but themselves. Probably no family, no education, no prospects." She waved her hand dismissively, her jewelry catching the faint light. The little girl in the back seat spoke up, her small voice trembling with frustration. "Grandma, that's not true. They're just like us, just not as lucky." Her grandmother turned her head sharply, her eyes narrowing. "Like us? Oh, sweetheart, they're nothing like us. You don't understand the way the world works yet." The child's face fell, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I understand enough," she murmured, barely above a whisper. "Enough to know it's not fair to leave someone who needs help." The man sighed deeply, his patience wearing thin. "Mom, can we not argue about this? That girl is a child, innocent, just like your granddaughter." The older woman bristled, but stayed quiet, her lips pressed into a thin line. After a moment, she muttered, "I'm just saying, this isn't our responsibility. Someone else could have helped them." The wife finally spoke, her voice soft but unwavering. "And if everyone thought like that, who would help them? What if it was us on that road, Mom? What if it was your granddaughter standing there?" The older woman didn't respond, but her fingers tightened around the strap of her handbag. The silence stretched again, but this time it was heavier, the weight of their unspoken thoughts filling the space. As the car turned onto the final stretch of road leading to the hospital, the little girl leaned her head against the window, her voice barely audible. I hope her mom gets better, and I hope she has someone who loves her, like I do. The older woman's eyes flickered toward her granddaughter, her stern expression softening for just a moment. But she said nothing, turning her gaze back to the blur of trees outside. The car fell silent, with no one saying a word. After a long, quiet drive of about an hour, the car finally pulled up at the nearest hospital. The bright lights of the entrance reflected on the man's face as he stepped out, and hurried inside to handle the paperwork. He paid for every necessity, ensuring they were comfortable before turning back toward the car. The weight of his mother's disapproval loomed in his mind as he opened the door of the first vehicle, where his wife and mother sat in silence, the air tense with unspoken thoughts. His mother, seated stiffly in the back seat, narrowed her eyes at him as he climbed in. "I don't see why it had to be us," she muttered, her tone sharp and unyielding. "Anyone else could have helped them. Why go out of our way for strangers?" The man sighed, his jaw tightening as he resisted the urge to respond. His wife, seated beside him, glanced back at the older woman, her voice soft but steady. "They needed help, Mom. What would you have done if it were us on that roadside?" The grandmother scoffed, folding her arms across her chest. "Please, look at them. The clothes they're wearing, the way they looked. It's obvious they're not like us. What family lets their child stand by the road like that? Do they even have anyone else?" The little girl in the car looked up sharply at her grandmother, her innocent face clouded with disappointment. "Grandma," she said quietly, her voice trembling. The grandmother let out a faint humph, her lips pursed in silent defeat. The rest of the drive passed quietly, save for the occasional whispers exchanged between the mother and daughter-in-law about the duo they had helped. When they finally arrived home, exhaustion weighed heavily on them all. One by one, they climbed out of the car and disappeared into their respective rooms without another word, the events of the night lingering unspoken in their minds. Just do me a favor if you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. A heart means support. Share your favorite twist or your theory before the reveal. Subscribe for more shadow-drenched stories from Mimi Stories 25.